everyone. Welcome to the Being Patient community. I'm Deborah Kahn, founder of Being Patient, and I'm really excited to bring back Lisa Genova to our live interview talks today because Lisa has written a new book. I have it right here called Remember. And the reason why this book was so important to me was two reasons. One is because a lot of you all write to us and ask that perennial question: is it normal aging or is something wrong? And number two, I think when you have a mom with Alzheimer's disease, you really start to wonder if you're headed on that road inevitably. So Lisa, welcome. And thank you so much for writing Remember.
Oh, thank you for having me again. It's so good to see you.
So I want to start first with, because we get a lot of questions, right? Is it normal aging? When should people be concerned? And what I really love, for those of you who haven't read Remember, I would highly, highly recommend it, because what it does is it kind of creates a roadmap between behavior and brain function. And, you know, we all associate the hippocampus as the memory center of our brains, but actually you expand it much wider to behavior and how it relates to certain parts of the brain. So I'm just going to start with a basic question that's not really easy to answer for many people, but let's just get your opinion first and foremost before we go into the details of some of the things you mentioned in the book. How, as a neuroscientist, wearing your neuroscientist hat, what question should we be asking ourselves to answer that question? Is it normal aging or is it a problem?
I think that this is a great question to be asking. And what I wanted to give folks in this book that should feel very conversational, even though it's packed with information, it's that it's probably normal. So I think that a lot of us who, if we don't understand memory and that it's actually quite fallible, it's not designed to be perfect and remember everything. So if after the age of 50, or if you have a mom with Alzheimer's, you start framing everything as all forgetting equals I'm going to get Alzheimer's, or this is a prelude to the path to dementia. And so what I want people to come away with is understanding what's normal, why, sort of, you know, let's look under the hood and understand how memory works so that I can know what's going on when I walk into a room and I don't know why I'm in there, or I've got a word stuck on the tip of my tongue. Like what's happened in my brain, and is that okay? Probably. And is it not? And the conversation of is it not, is it normal? I know that Alzheimer's is terrifying, but normal forgetting shouldn't be. And I want, instead of like fingers in the ears, la, 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 everything, all forgetting is terrifying. I can't be in this conversation. It's too much. Oh, most forgetting is normal, and therefore I can actually notice the things that might not be, and then to be in conversation with our physicians about our brain health. So we do this with our hearts and our lady parts, no problem. So I would love for folks to start to get comfortable with the idea of being in conversation about, here's my brain health today. How can I influence it? What are the kinds of things I can be doing to maintain brain healthy habits today so that I can prevent Alzheimer's tomorrow?
Okay, so I actually, I was thinking a lot about my book club, because we're all in our 40s, mid 40s to early 50s. And, you know, it doesn't matter what we're reading, but it all comes back to kind of that menopausal conversation. And, you know, I can't tell you how many friends are starting to worry about their memories as we age, right? And so it's like, and I just actually have texted the book club WhatsApp saying, you got to read Remember, because you'll feel much better. And that's one of the things I love, is we all ask ourselves, is it normal that I can't remember someone's name? Or is it normal? So I want to ask you this context in this question in the context of aging. Okay, so we are women who are perimenopausal. Some of us are in full-blown menopause. Is it normal to expect that your memory may not be as strong as it once was in our 20s and 30s?
Yes, for a number of reasons that aren't necessarily permanent and definitely don't mean Alzheimer's. So we know that sleep is necessary for memory. And when we're in perimenopause and menopause, we are often, waking up in the middle of the night as if you just jumped in a swimming pool completely drenched, right? Got to get up, change the clothes, change the sheets. You've got to maybe you're getting up to pee, maybe you're just like restless and not able to sleep because you're hot, it's like you're not sleeping well. We need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, and let me give you 3 reasons why. While you sleep, the information and experiences that you paid attention to and cared about that were emotional or surprising or repeated, and it's stuff you learned today, that becomes linked into a stable, lasting circuit of neural connections by your hippocampus while you sleep. And so if you don't get enough sleep, if it's the quality or the quantity is disrupted enough, the hippocampus might not have had enough time to do its full job. You'll wake up in the next day and memories from yesterday might not be as fully formed or might not be formed at all. They'll go missing. Second reason, if you get a crappy night's sleep, you're going to wake up the next day and feel like just really like dragging yourself around, and your frontal lobe is really dragging itself to its day job. And one of its most important jobs is to pay attention. The first necessary ingredient in forming a memory that's going to last longer than this present moment is your attention. You cannot remember what you don't pay attention to. This is important. We'll definitely come back to this. So if I'm exhausted, what did you say? I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. I'm so tired. So if I'm exhausted today, I'm not going to be able to pay attention. If I can't pay attention well today, I'm not going to be able to form new memories today. And then the third reason has to do with ultimately developing Alzheimer's. And that is that while we sleep, our glial cells, which are the janitors, the sewage and sanitation department in our brain, they get busy cleaning up metabolic debris while we're asleep. And one of the things that clears away is a protein called amyloid beta. And amyloid beta, if it's not cleared away, it's sticky, it will bind to itself and form plaques. And if enough of those plaques build up over time, we got lots of time. It's like 15 to 20 years, but over time, if you add that up, it will trigger the molecular cascade that is Alzheimer's. So, perimenopause and menopause is a time where like lack of sleep is hitting us hard. So we're feeling like, I can't remember yesterday well, and I can't remember what's going on today. And so I think a lot of this, ladies, is sleep. Stress can also impact. So if you're feeling a lot of stress, and stress isn't, it's not lions in the savannah chasing us like it was when our stress responses, really evolved. It's our thoughts, our predators. So we as women tend to be, the caregivers to our children, the caregivers to our parents. We're probably working outside the home as well. We're managing the household. We have a lot on our shoulders. And I think that, a lot of the uncertainty of this past year in particular, it's a lot of psychological stress that we bear. And if that is not managed, if we don't, the best stress busters, the things that combat stress, are exercise, meditation, yoga, mindfulness. Those will help us to not have memory problems in the face of stress, but a lot of us don't make the time to do these things because we're so busy being stressful. So if you're chronically stressed, you will have a hard time retrieving information you already know. You'll have a hard time making new memories. You'll actually shrink the size of your hippocampus. That's the part of your brain you need to make new memories. It is reversible. So you don't have to, like, if you can get your cortisol levels to come down. So when you're chronically stressed, you're in like a constant state of fight or flight. Your hormones, your stress hormones are elevated, and you are on the inside. And that's not good for memory. So we got to try and bring it down.
So one of the things that really hit home for me is your focus on attention, right? And so I think a lot of us, like, My husband always says to me, because I always say, oh God, I have such a bad memory. You know, I can never remember people's faces or names. And I can't remember anything, actually. He'll remember things and I'll have like, I don't remember it. And he says, well, I think your problem is that you do 100 things at one time and you're not paying attention, which is typical to my personality too. But when you write about attention, and I remember, reading the book Moonwalking with Einstein. I don't know if you've ever read that book, but they talk about mnemonics, right? And the people, if you can kind of make your memory better by remembering outrageous things, right? And so if you use conscious tactics, and attention is one of them, right? It's just like, okay, pay attention, give us all of your focus. But, you know, I think a lot of us are just used to not paying attention a lot of the time. And so what you point out so well is bringing this to a conscious level, right? Like really focus and pay attention. And that in turn will help you. I mean, that practice is good for your memory, is it not?
Absolutely. And but like it doesn't have to. So, you know, the book Moonwalking with Einstein, for those who've read it, these are, you know, he's talking about and participated in being a memory champion, a memory athlete. And these people memorize hundreds of thousands of digits of pi and decks of cards in 60 seconds. And it's mind blowing what these folks can do. But that's not what we want in day-to-day life. So Deborah, it's like, yes, we need to pay attention, but it doesn't have to be this daunting thing where we're like this. It's, you know, so every day, most of us probably have a moment of, where did I put my glasses? Where did I leave my phone? Where are my keys? Where's my coat? Where did I park my car? All the things that go missing. And then people instantly go to, I have the worst memory. I think I'm getting Alzheimer's. I cannot remember where I put my things all day long. So here's the deal, folks. Your memory was never even involved, I'm betting, because the number one first ingredient in forming a memory that's going to last longer than right now is your attention. So if I put my glasses down and I don't take just that moment of presence, I don't have to laser in on it. I don't have to stop the world for 30 seconds. I literally just have to look. Okay, I'm putting my glasses here. Notice it. Your memory is not a video camera. It is not a stenographer. It does not record a constant stream of every sight and sound and smell and emotion you're exposed to. It can only have a chance at capturing what you pay attention to. So I've got to just, okay, I put my glasses on the desk, quick moment, or Lisa Genova told me to pay attention where I put my glasses. They're right there. And then you can zip off and do the 12 other things. But if you're already in your head dialed into like, I just, you know, okay, I got them down, but like I'm talking to the kids and now I'm texting someone while I'm talking to the kids. Right. And I'm like, okay, I'm going over, like, I got to pick up these 5 things and then I got to leave the house. Shoot, where are my glasses? Well, I'm blaming my memory. I think I've forgotten where I put my glasses, but my memory was never involved in the process. I never involved my memory to begin with.
If I take off my glasses right now and put them on the table and say to myself, my glasses are on the table, is that going into my hippocampus? What's happening in my brain?
You've now given your hippocampus a chance to remember it. So like you need that neural input of your attention. It's not enough. So let me give an example that everyone's going to understand, because maybe it's like, well, what do I really need to do? So have you ever driven somewhere, probably a familiar route, because we don't pay attention to what we already know, what's familiar and ho-hum and boring. We pay attention to what's new and surprising and emotional and meaningful. So if you're driving this route that you drive all the time, you can be maybe 10, 20 minutes down the road and suddenly have a moment where you think, I don't remember any of this drive. So for me, I regularly drive over a really big 4-lane bridge. It's huge. And I will be 10 minutes past this bridge very regularly and think, wait, where am I? Did I already go over the bridge? I can't recall going over this bridge that my eyes were available to. My brain saw the bridge, right? I didn't go over with my eyes shut. My brain got the visual information. My muscle memory, my memory for the choreography of how to drive was online. I didn't crash into anything. I did what I was supposed to do, but my brain has no memory of having driven over the bridge because I didn't pay attention to anything about the bridge. even though I saw it. So we can't remember what we don't pay attention to.
Okay. And so we have a question that's come in and saying, please comment about the role of neuroplasticity. Do you believe that this normal way that the brain deals with memory storage and recall inefficiencies in normal individuals might be misleading for those who might actually be on the road to Alzheimer's disease? So he's throwing you the reverse question, right? So
no, I don't, because it's the distinction between what happens when you're on the road to Alzheimer's and what a normal human brain is capable of and what it fails at every day is very different. And once you understand this, you're like, oh, so let me give you a bunch of examples. So it's not, and you won't like, so, where did I put my glasses or my phone? That's normal. And you're going to recognize it. Once you understand this, you'll think, oh, I can't find my glasses. And you'll say, you know what? I didn't pay attention to where I put them. That's why I have no memory. If you're paying attention to where you put them and you can't find them, that could be something. If you find them and you're thinking, why do I want these? What are these for? If you find your phone and you're not quite sure how to use it, if you find your keys and you're thinking, I don't know, whose are these? What do I need these for? That kind of confusion is not normal. If you drive to the mall and you park in the garage, and then you run off into the mall and maybe you're with your friend, you're gabbing, and you get to the mall and you shop for an hour and you come out, you get back to the garage and you think, oh my God, I don't remember where I parked. Am I on level 3 or level 4? I can't remember. And it's likely you weren't paying attention to where you parked the car when you took off. If you have Alzheimer's, it's, how did I get here? I don't remember how I got here. Or you're standing in front of your car and you don't recognize it as yours. It is not just normal brains can't have a hard time remembering pronouns. Pronouns think of them as living in a house at the end of a neurological cul-de-sac. It's very difficult to ultimately get to that one road. There's only one way in. What's the name? It's name. And our processing speed's slow as we age. That's normal. So it's like you feel like a gerbil on the wheel in the brain. Like, come on, gerbil, get to it. So we're always like, oh, what's the name of that actor? What's the name of that show? What's the name of that city? Normal. If you have Alzheimer's, you're going to have a hard time with regular common nouns dozens of times a day. What's the name the thing I used to write with? Pen? Yeah, I mean, it feels like a game of charades if you know someone with Alzheimer's. People with Alzheimer's will have a hard time remembering what happened, what you said a half an hour ago or what they said a few minutes ago. So they'll repeat themselves over and over and not realize, because they're not able to consolidate that information into a lasting memory. So it's very different, guys. I'm not worried about you missing the signs of Alzheimer's. I'm more worried that every day you are adding unnecessary stress to your lives, and chronic stress is bad for your memory today and can increase your risk of Alzheimer's in the future. So I really want you to understand the distinction so that we can take this unnecessary burden of stress off of your plates.
That's really well said. And one of the things I love about Remember is you really go through kind of a wide, I was left feeling like there are things that we can do to improve memory. But I also found extremely interesting is this group of very rare people, what is it called? I just lost the word.
HSAM, yeah. Highly superior autobiographical memory.
Which is amazing, and very few people have it. But what it really means is you have the ability to really recall things that happened on particular days throughout your life, like very specifically, right? And I think you said like 100 people. How many?
About 100 people have been identified. One of them is actress Mary Lou Henner. who was in, remember she was in Taxi.
Yep.
And yes, so there's three kinds of long-term memory. So there's the memory for the stuff you know, that's semantic memory. This is all the facts and information, all the stuff you learned in school. So it's 6 times 6 is 36. George Washington was the first president. It's your address and phone number and date of birth, all of that info. Then there's also muscle memory. Doesn't live in your muscles, folks. This is the memory for the choreography of how to do things. So this is how to brush your teeth, how to ride a bike, how to drive your car, how to hit a tennis ball, how to type.
And that's in which part of our brain?
That is in your, that muscle memory is in your motor cortex.
Motor cortex.
And so the neurons, the desire to move and the choreography to move is in your motor cortex. And then those neurons go to the spinal cord and then go to every voluntary muscle in your body. So your brain tells your body what to do. So you know how to do the chicken dance because your brain tells the muscles. It doesn't live in your muscles. And then the last kind of long-term memory is called episodic. And this is the memory for what happened, the stuff that happened. So remember the time when, and that's what highly superior autobiographical memory folks have the superpower in, is they can remember what happened on pretty much every day of their lives from around the age 10 or 12 on. So, and if you'd say to Mary Lou, like, okay, let me give her a date, right? It's like, May 6th, 1982. She'll say, oh, that was a Thursday. It was raining. I was recording this episode of Taxi. I had this for dinner. I was wearing these cute new shoes. Like, she's got the whole thing. And she'll tell me what's going on in the news so you can verify it. It's
okay. So, but what I found, I mean, that ability is amazing to begin with. But what I found most interesting about this is when you scan these people's brains, some areas of their brains are bigger than normal, right? You can actually physically see that they have more brain power in certain areas.
Yes. And so we don't know. But we don't know, because it's a chicken and egg question as of now, right? So we don't know if those areas are enlarged and that enlargement endows them with this superpower, or that because they've had this superpower, it enlarges those parts of the brain. So for example, if I'm just learning to take piano lessons, the part of my brain that is the motor cortex in charge of the fine motor movement of my fingers doesn't really look any different from everybody else. But if I am a virtuoso, if I'm a masterful piano player and I can play Rachmaninoff from memory, that part of my brain that maps to the motor cortex of the fine motor movement of my fingers is actually enlarged on an MRI. It's bigger, more real estate, because it's got so much information there, so many neural connections.
Can we change the size of our hippocampus? I mean, I remember reading about research for if I'm a runner and if we exercise, then perhaps that's adding gray matter to our hippocampus.
So we and so every time we learn something new, we can build new neural connections. So we can build more branches to connect neuron A to B to C to D. But we also birth new neurons throughout life. So it's called neurogenesis. We can make new neurons. And this was, when I was in graduate school in the 90s, we were told, no, you never birth new neurons after you're born, but that's been debunked. And you don't birth new neurons everywhere in your brain, but one of the places that this happens throughout life is your hippocampus, which is great news. And because this is the engine that allows us to knit together the sights, the sounds, the smells, the emotions, the information that is a memory. Like, this hippocampus is required to take previously unrelated information or new information and bind it together so that we can then recall it again later.
Wait, so, and to make the distinction there, and when you have Alzheimer's disease, you don't have the ability to add new memories, right? Is that true?
So the very first place that's under attack in your brain by Alzheimer's is your hippocampus. So it's not all or nothing all at once. It doesn't consume the hippocampus overnight, but it's starting there. And so, this is why people are having a hard time making new memories. They'll I don't remember what I had for lunch. I don't remember that I ate lunch. I don't remember what you just said to me. I don't remember what I just said to you. I don't remember what happened last week. So, but just to let me finish the thought on the hippocampus for a second in terms of size of it. So we can increase the neurogenesis in our hippocampus, which is increasing the size and the robustness and the power of this part of our brain through aerobic exercise. We think it's about 30 minutes a day for 4 to 5 days a week. A brisk walk, which means walking like you're in a hurry, that can do it. We know that meditating can increase the size of your hippocampus. We know that for people who have 2 copies of ApoE4, so you've got a genetic risk of Alzheimer's from mom and dad. Doesn't mean you're going to get Alzheimer's, but you've got a much higher chance of developing it if you've got 2 copies of ApoE4. Your hippocampus will be smaller than someone who does not have 2 copies of ApoE4, only if you're sedentary. If you have 2 copies of ApoE4 and you are an exerciser, your hippocampus will not be smaller. That's powerful.
It's very interesting, actually. Yeah. And it does make you feel like I am in control to a certain extent, right?
There's a lot. And to a lot of extent, I think people think from the neck up, for some reason, it's disconnected, it's disembodied, it's not part of the rest of the body. It is, folks. You know you have an influence over your heart health. I know you guys believe this at this point, right? We know, we count our steps. We know the kinds of food that support heart health. We know that blood pressure is a measure of heart health. We monitor and influence our heart health, and we're comfortable with that. You can do that with your brain as well.
Okay, and this question is one I've also, someone is asking, does the lack of attention such as ADHD is it going to set people up for Alzheimer's, because ADHD creates a great deal of stress? But also, we've tried to, and I know research is just looking into this, could ADHD possibly be a precursor to Alzheimer's?
So again, folks, there's a distinction between, if I can't pay attention today, I'm going to have a harder time making memories for what happened and the information I'm trying to learn. So if I'm studying for a test, a set of vocabulary words, and I'm distracted, I'm going to have a hard time memorizing those vocabulary words. So if I have ADHD, and a lot of folks do today, and we live in a very distracted time. I mean, I think our attention spans collectively are shrinking. TED Talks used to be 20 minutes. My most recent one is only 7. That's right. What they asked me to do. So everything's getting chunked to smaller bite-sized pieces because we can't seem to sit and listen to things for more than 30 minutes at a time at the most. But if we want to remember something without having to go back to it. So again, if you have ADHD and you know this, like maybe you just know that like I need to put things in place so that I can know where to look to find it, because I'm not going to remember it well. It doesn't, I would say, of the risk factors for Alzheimer's, chronic stress is correlated with an increased risk, but it will not give you Alzheimer's all by itself. If I'm, a lot of us are chronically stressed. This doesn't mean we will get Alzheimer's because of that. And again, there are things that we can do to counter the stress. I'll give you guys a real quick one. So meditating, we all know that we're supposed to meditate. We all hear about how great it is for us. And yet a lot of us will say, I don't have the time. I don't know how to shut off my thoughts, even though that's not what you're doing. I need to go to a retreat. We have all these reasons. But let me give you a 9-second meditation, and I'm going to tell you why it works, because you have time for 9 seconds. I know you do. So if you're not driving your car and you're not on a Zoom call and you can close your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes, because that helps quiet your brain a bit, shuts off a lot of activity. Breathe in through your nose to the count of 4. Hold it for 1 second, and then breathe out through your nose to the count of 4. And notice how you feel. Because here's what's going on. When we have activated the stress response in our brain and body, when we're dumping adrenaline and cortisol and it can't shut off because the receptors in our brain are now desensitized to all of this cortisol, and so the shut off valve breaks and the feedback loop is no longer shut off, and it's just dumping and dumping, and our hippocampus is shrinking. when we are in the stress response, we are never calmly breathing in and out through our nose. I mean, again, think about what the stress response was designed for. It's you must react to an emergency, a threat, a danger, like your life is at stake right now. Run, fight. And so you're okay. So just like the world can impact our physiology, we can flip it around. So by breathing slowly in and out through our nose, we are telling our brain and body, you're safe. And so
Doesn't that have to do with,
we can bring those cortisol levels back down just through that simple breathing exercise.
doesn't that have to do with our parasympathetic system? Or I remember reading about this. It's like
So there's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, and those are just names for what's the counterbalance of what's going on in our body. Like, are you safe? And are you okay to digest your meal and undergo cell division because we believe you're going to be around and not eaten in the next few minutes? Or do we have to run for our lives and, stop digesting, don't make new cells, mobilize glucose, send it energy to the muscles, like run, fight. And if you survive that, then everything should quiet back down. But if we're chronically stressed, things don't quiet back down, they stay up. And so how can we get it back down? If you breathe in and out through your nose for a moment, it'll help.
So I want to talk a little bit about meditation, because the way that I understand it is meditation is good for our brains because it actually forces our brains to operate in a different way. So I assume that's neuroplasticity. Like if we're bringing our brains to a different wavelength, then perhaps that's sending the neurons in different patterns than they normally would operate.
No, and here's, so I know quite a bit about this over the years. I did a 200-hour yoga teacher training. I've written about this. I have so many friends who are yogis and meditation teachers and have trained with Deepak Chopra and passed that education on. Here's the deal with meditation. During meditation, you are not trying to achieve a state of total Zen. You are not trying to shut off your thinking. You are meditating when you notice your thoughts. So every time you're still and you're breathing and you're focusing on your breath, but suddenly you're reliving something that you did last week. Oh, I wish I'd done that differently. Oh, as soon as you notice it, that's meditating. So you catch it and you say, okay, I'm back to the breath. So every time you realize that your thoughts, you're hooked into thoughts that aren't actually your present moment. I'm here talking to you, or I'm driving my car. This happens when I drive a lot. And all of a sudden I'm like, I'm in some fantasy of a conversation that never happened or did happen or might happen. Or it's like, oh, as soon as you can catch your thoughts that are running away and running wild and bring it back to the present moment, that's meditating. So if I sit down to meditate for 10 minutes and I catch myself 42 times thinking something, I've drifted away. This should be just focusing on breathing in, breathing out, or a mantra. So the reason this is important, and it's great because every time I catch it, I've given myself a chance to practice what I want to do in real life, which is every time I get like something wants me to react to it, and I start to my thoughts start to go wild. They're like untamed dogs. I can say, nope, bring it back. Come here. So once it's helping you notice when you get hooked so that you can just be present and then less reactive to things.
And that in turn helps our attention. Is that related to attention?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it all comes back to attention.
Paying attention. Yeah. So back to memory again. So I want to give this to folks to make sure we get it in there. So what do we remember? We remember what we pay attention to, what's meaningful, what's emotional, what's surprising or new, and what we repeat over and over again. So we don't remember, our brains will forget very normally what's same old, been there, done that, what's not emotional, what we don't repeat. So these things go away. So think about that for a moment in the context of your life. You will very normally forget most of your life. So most of our waking hours are actually spent doing routine ho-hum, been there, done that things, right? So tell me everyone you texted 3 days ago.
No idea.
Tell me what you had for lunch last Thursday,
No idea.
right? Tell me what you wore last Wednesday.
Right.
Right. So we know we get dressed, we have the coffee and the meals and the conversations, the same, like it, unless it's new. Like this is why we remember vacations, right? Because I've gone to a new city and the it's new architecture and different meals and different culture. And we've taken photos of it. So we post it to social media so we can revisit it with captions. And so it's like a photo album that we keep going over. And it's probably emotional because we went with our family and maybe it was wonderful, or maybe we fought, or like, but it's not same old, same old. There's lots of feeling and newness and repetition. So we remember those vacations pretty well, but we don't remember, last Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. And you point that out so well too in the book. That's what actually I find very comforting. It's like realizing actually we don't remember a lot of things, right?
And our brains are not designed to remember to do something later. So I think a lot of folks feel like, a lot of people think that's cheating. Like there's a lot of folks out there that think, oh, if I can't remember a name and I Google it, I'm cheating and I'm going to make my memory worse. Nope. You can Google it. It's okay. And by the way, then that frees up your brain to learn and think and pay attention to other things. If you're constantly like, what's his name? What's his name? What's his name? What's his name? Like you're going to drive yourself nuts. And there's a reason I go into the book as to why your brain is it's perseverating in the wrong neural neighborhood when that happens. And it's not going to find the right word probably until you give up, and then it might have a chance, but you can also just Google it and be done with it. To do something later, our brain, it's called prospective memory. Our brains just literally are not designed to do that well. You have to have the right cue available at the right moment or you will forget. And so you should write it down. If you need to pick up milk at the grocery store later, put it in your phone, write it down, or you'll probably forget the milk. And the best examples I have of this, because people think, no, I should remember it. I should try harder. No, it's not going to make your memory for all the other stuff better. And you're probably going to forget. Airline pilots do not rely on their brains and their prospective memories to remember to lower the wheels of the plane before landing them. Right. They use checklists. You outsource your prospective memory. So anything you need to do later. Oh, I need to remember to pick up the dry cleaning, return the library book. I need to remember to call my mom, book the flight, write it down. You're going to forget your 4:00 Zoom meeting if it's not in your calendar. So put the things in your calendar. This is not cheating. Our human brains are not designed to remember to do stuff later.
Yeah. And it's obvious too, like a lot of that stuff is really boring, right? So why do we want to think about it? It's but it does make sense. It makes a lot of sense. Okay. So just end us on a note where you give us, obviously write things down, but is there anything that we should be keeping an eye on? Can we in fact, improve our memories as we age? Can we actually have a better memory than we did in our 30s? And tell us how that is possible.
Yeah. So what you're going to feel as you age is, again, like the processing speed slows. So like grabbing the information, retrieving what you already know feels slower. But your memories for what happened are just as accurate and inaccurate as your younger counterparts. You will have trouble paying attention to more than one unrelated thing at a time as you age. And so if you're trying to do that, you're going to remember less of it because you're not able to attend as well. But otherwise, as we age, we actually accumulate something called wisdom, which is a combination of
maybe
the memories for what happened and the memories of the stuff that's the integration of those two things, right? It's your experiences plus the stuff and so you can at any age, if you want to, and if you use the tools that our brains love with respect to creating memory, like if I want to learn piano and I'm age 80, I can. I'd have to practice because muscle memory requires a lot of repetition. If I want to learn to play golf at 80, I can. If I want to, Akira Haraguchi was a retired engineer in Japan who decided he wanted to memorize pi to as many digits as he could. and he memorized a non-repeating patternless numbers to over 111,000 digits.
Yeah,
At age 69. He's not a mathematical genius. He's not a savant. He used what all of these memory champions use, which is understanding our memory systems, love of story, because stories are meaningful, emotion, things that are surprising and weird and bizarre. So they attach, each number is attached to an image or a word, and it tells a story. So they don't just rotely memorize all of those numbers. So like, again, like if I want to remember to buy milk and I didn't write it down, I'm my memory retrieval is best served if I attach something to that. Our brains love things that are visual, weird, surprising, loves where things are in space, because again, like we needed to remember where the food was, where safety was, where the predators live. So it's like, okay, if I want to remember milk, I can imagine Dwayne the Rock Johnson milking a cow on my kitchen table.
Right.
And now I'm going to remember to buy the milk.
Right.
Because that's weird. So yes.
Outrageous things evoke
Or something
recall,
that tells
right?
a story, right? This is why, a bunch of nonsense. If I string together 60 letters in random order, you're going to have a hard time memorizing those. But if those 60 letters form a sentence,
Right.
Lisa Genova was talking to Deborah Kahn, you can remember that sentence pretty easily. So it's just if we add meaning and story to what we're trying to remember, that helps a ton. Our brains love that.
Okay, so I can't recommend Remember enough, and you'll remember the name. So it's really a great. I mean, Lisa, you usually tell stories of people, and this one I love because you're actually. I mean, there's a lot of a lot of people recalling stories in this, but it's a different type of book for you, and I really appreciated this one. I thought it was excellent. What's the next book you're working on?
Thank you so much. I'm going back to fiction with my next book, and I'm writing about a woman with bipolar disorder.
An important topic. Excellent. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise. Thank you for really your contribution. There are very few neuroscientists who can write like you do and tell stories, more importantly. So thank you so much for your contribution. I think it's immensely helpful to a lot of people.
Oh, Deborah, thank you so much. I feel the same way about what you're offering to the world. So thank you for doing all that you do as well.
So if you missed any of this interview and want to catch it, go to beingpatient.com. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletters. That's where we will let you know about upcoming talks. I hope you enjoyed this one as much as I did. Thanks everyone for watching.